the Daily Ramble podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Claret and Booze. My name's Nick. This is my Daily Ramble. Hope you're all well. As always, if you are new to this channel, please subscribe, drop a like on the video. It does really help us. Loads to get through today. We'll get on to sort of transfer news a little bit later, but I'll just give you the itinerary of what we're going to be running through today very, very quickly. So we're going to be talking about the Alvarez story, which was taken from the Sunday People, and it's been reported elsewhere now as well that apparently, this is whether you believe it or not, I don't know, we're talking about what's been reported, and that is our worst nightmare, that Moyes has told Alvarez that he's going to be taking the back seat to Phillips. We're going to be talking about Tim Steidten's link to Liverpool. We're going to be talking about the Osman debacle, David Sullivan not helping this situation, if there is a link with Tim Steidten. We're going to be talking about the Jota deal, and then, like I said, a few outgoings, Benny, Cornet, and Fornals as well. And yeah, quite a lot to churn through. So look, let's start with the Alvarez story. Now, look, as most of you will know by now, it was written in the Sunday People this week that David Moyes had spoken to Alvarez. Apparently, David Moyes is angry with Alvarez for the fact that a CDM, a combative CDM, the same one that we bought, the same one that got yellow cards for Ajax for fun because it's the way that he plays, he's got the ump with him because of his discipline, and he thinks that they say that he's spoken to Alvarez to say that Phillips will be taking his place. Now, look, I don't know whether I can believe that. Well, I can. I'll be lying if I said I can't. But I don't think that David Moyes could do it. I don't think that David Moyes could get away with it. I think it would be absolutely mental. I've said it already. When you go out and you make signings in a January transfer window, you go out to fix problems. Well, CDM isn't a problem. Getting cover for CDM, yeah, fair enough. But we had a fantastic CDM in Alvarez, and there's no reason whatsoever that he should be replaced. We know what needs to happen. We know that Souček needs to come out. Alvarez and Phillips need to play at the base, and then whether it's James Ward-Prowse or Paqueta in the 10, then that's what needs to happen. So that's what I think will happen. However, it is being reported that David Moyes may do the unthinkable. So that does suggest that there may be some games going on. Now, when you hear everything else that's going on at the moment, I mean, look, let's start off with the Osman deal. So strip away whether or not you think that Osman is the signing for us, whether you think the money we're paying is too much, whatever it is, strip that away completely and factor in that we've got David Moyes as a manager that has been backed with a ridiculous amount of money for Calvin Phillips, who we are renting from Man City for 4 months at a cost of around about 400 to 500 grand per week. That's a total cost of the deal when you factor in what we've paid as a loan fee and wages and everything else. It's about £500,000 a week. So they've backed him massively with a player that hasn't played for 2 months, but has hardly played for 2 years. So he's a bit of an unknown. There's nothing to say that Phillips isn't going to come in and hit the ground running. There's nothing to say that Calvin Phillips, who's been haunted with injuries, even at Man City, where he ain't played, is going to pick up an injury and we're going to be left to foot the bill. They've backed Moyes with that, but obviously we know that one of the main positives with Tim Steidten is what he does is he goes out and he finds value for money. He does the opposite to David Moyes. David Moyes looks for oven-ready players that cost a fortune, and Tim Steidten goes out and looks to buy these players. I've said it before, not Palhinha from Fulham for 80 million, Palhinha from Sporting Lisbon for 20 million. That's what you bring Tim Steidten in for. You expect him to take a little bit longer to develop because you're not buying the finished product, but ultimately, from a business perspective, that's what you do. And it's basically been confirmed by everyone now that it was it's Barry Silkman. Barry Silkman has been in in David Sullivan's ear saying, "I think you're paying too much money for that player." And we know that he's also an agent, and we know that he's got other players that he's trying to push on him, namely Jota, whatever his name is. I like him, but this kind of sours that deal a little bit for me because it's like, We're undermining our director of football and the entire scouting team who have selected and handpicked this player, Osman. Who are we as fans to even go against that? All the data suggests, obviously, that this player is going to be a great player. That's why Brentford are going after him. That's why Brighton are going after him. Arsenal and now Spurs. Spurs have entered the race for Osman. And I know there's issues with the agent. I know that. I was, I was unaware of that on Sunday night when we did the show. Been made aware of it now, but the fact of the matter is, if you want to get that deal done, you get that deal done. They've been going cold on that for an awful long time, and like I say, it'll be interesting if another team does manage to get that deal done and does manage to overcome these agent issues. It doesn't sound like we've helped the situation. It sounds like this rogue agent we've started to talk to. I don't know what's going on. So straight away, you've got Sullivan now undermining Tim Steidten. As far as I'm concerned, he's undermining him, whilst backing David Moyes with Phillips. And then the news breaks at the weekend that obviously Klopp is leaving. So straight away, you get the instant link, the obvious link, which is Xabi Alonso, the manager that certainly I covet, that I would have loved at West Ham. He's now being linked to go to Liverpool. But now it's not just Xabi Alonso that's being linked, because the director of football at Liverpool is said to be stepping down after this transfer window. Now they're linking Tim Steidten with that job, because Tim Steidten was linked with that job before and he was almost in. But apparently Jurgen Klopp didn't want to work with Tim. Don't know why. Probably personal issue somewhere in the past. Don't know. But that's the reason it didn't happen. So they employed another guy, and that's, yeah. But he's being linked again. Like I say, that's on Football Insider. Not the most reliable source, but it's an obvious link. If they're lacking a director of football, Tim Steidten's there. He's worked with Xabi Alonso before. It seems like almost like a no-brainer from Liverpool's perspective. So I don't really know what Sullivan is trying to do here. Whether I don't know, because if the weird thing is, we've got that the new technical guy, Hans. He's joining from Werder Bremen on February the 1st or February the 2nd. We've got his brother, Tim Steidten's brother, joining as well. He's joining the coaching staff. But obviously all of these recruits were made. That was all done before the power shift at Liverpool, where there's now a vacancy. So look, we might be putting, 2 and 2 together and coming up with 15. I don't know. Well, it's not us doing that. We're responding to articles that are out there. But it does make sense. That's the worrying thing. It does make sense. Tim Steidten is an incredibly high-rated director of football, in a similar vein to how Xabi Alonso is a highly rated manager. He's, if you like, a superstar director of football. There aren't that many of them. So, yeah, I am incredibly worried about this now. And that's why it's so frustrating that David Sullivan has gone out there, and it feels like he's undermined Tim Steidten. With this deal, they should be backing him and doing everything they can to get their player in. If David Sullivan is doing the same shit again, going out there playing the same old games, talking to his... Honestly, Barry Silkman, the Tom Jones fucking lookalike. I know he went out and got Paqueta done. I get that, but, the fact of the matter is we paid 50 million for Paqueta and there's an 85 million release clause. It ain't like it was a watertight deal, is it? That feels like a stupid fucking deal now, because 85 million feels like peanuts. He was either going to fall off a cliff and not be very good, or be amazing. And he's amazing. So he should be a £100 million plus player. But anyway, whatever. But what I'm trying to say is we've got that director of football mechanism in place. We've got all the scouts. We've paying a fortune for this. And all it takes is one of Sullivan's old mates to make a phone call and have a whisper in his ear. And that's where for me, I'm sorry, it kind of starts to feel a little bit corrupt. The fact that David Sullivan likes to deal with certain people, because we know these massive agent fees get changed hands between with every transfer deal, and West Ham are up there with paying kind of the highest rates of agency fees as well, of agents fees anyway. That is kind of that is true. You can go and look it up. Obviously, look, there's no proof of foul play, but it does make you suspicious. It's ridiculous. I don't know why we're doing it. Fuck off, Silkman. If you've got a player we want, we'll deal with you. But you don't advise us on who we need. We've got a director of football that does that. We know that Salthouse has got Jonathan Rowe. Jonathan Rowe is apparently way down the pecking order in terms of, we could go for him if we can't get anyone else. But yeah, it's just incredibly, incredibly frustrating. It really, really is. The Osman deal, like I said to you, put aside whether or not you think he's the right player. We don't know anything about him. We've never seen him play. All we've done is we've looked at his stats. We look at the bigger picture. You've got no idea. You know, there's got to be something in him if all of these teams are after him. If all these teams are after him. You know, we've literally got a team of experts for recruitment now. They should be entrusted to go out and do the right thing. But look, when you factor in that we've now got Benny that's apparently winging his way to Lyon now for 15 million, although apparently we're trying to negotiate for more. Take it, let him go. And you've got Cornet to Forest for around about 8 million. Apparently Forest want Cornet. You know, you'd think they'd have learnt their lesson. They've bought quite a few duds. Although you can guarantee if they buy him, he'll probably score against us. And Pablo Fornals. We know that Betis are in for him for 8 million. I want us to sell Pabs. I want him to get his move. He desperately wants to go, and he's earned it. We should not stand in his way. Absolutely not. If we're going to force anyone to stay, it should be the other two. Fornals has earned his stripes as far as I'm concerned. So, look, I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are. It's a bit of a mad one, a bit of a mad rant. But, yeah, it's very confusing. This is a very fucking frustrating transfer window as I see it. There isn't really much... Well, there's loads happening, but nothing's happening, if that makes sense. And I'm just a little bit concerned that there is more to this conspiracy theory than meets the eye, you know? And that's where it feeds in that Moyes might drop Steidten's player, because if he smells blood and he senses that, oh, I might be back in favour here, he might try and stick the knife in a little bit more. That's why the Alvarez thing, because everyone knows it's a Tim Steidten player. I know people say Noble scouted him, Moyes signed it up. Who was he on the plane with? Who was Kudus on the plane with? You know? James Ward-Prowse went on a fucking plane with everyone knows that he was a Moyes player. Everyone knows that Calvin Phillips was a Moyes player as well. Everyone that Steidten has signed, they've fucking come in on the jet, haven't they? So yeah, look, I don't know. I just feel very, 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 very worried and frustrated at the moment. All I know is if this season plays out that Tim Steidten moves on and David Moyes ends up with his new contracts, that's one step forward and 500 steps back. That's all I'm going to say. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments anyway. Speak to you soon. And come on, you irons.